Okay, so welcome everyone. We start from the names. I'm Katarina. No, Tony.
Tess.
Dale. Wendy.
Adrian. Justin. Carl.
Jane.
Terry.
Kimberly.
Simon. David.
Oh, you can see behind. You should be seeing too. Oh, okay. Because nobody else will be able to pass.
Hello. Everybody. Back there. Good.
Okay. Ready?
Hmm.
Full house today.
Yes.
Well, pointed out once again. Same old, same old. What we point to is what we call these days non-duality. Some other label they put on it. Non-duality meaning not two, one without a second. And we try and keep it in its simplicity, and it is very simple. If it's only the one, and they talk about the absolute and the great perfection, well, it must be. If it's only the one, there's nothing other than that. It must be the absolute, the total. And you only got to look at these things for a little while, look around you and understand. Though there are seeming thousands and thousands of different patterns, shapes and forms, there's nothing that can postulate that is outside of space or the stillness. All movement comes from stillness. All sound comes from the silence. All seeming pattern, shapes and forms appear in that space. And when the Buddha said that it's a cognizing emptiness, and he said that emptiness is form, and the form can be nothing other than emptiness. That's what he's pointing to. It's all that cognizing emptiness. And the cognizing part, another name for that is knowing. Or another name for the knowing is intelligence. Not the intellect, but in pure intelligence. It's patterning, shaping, forming, and everything. So if emptiness is form, and a form can't be anything other than the emptiness, there's nothing or nobody or anything in this room that is other than that emptiness. Not only applies to in this room, but outside and everywhere and everywhere. It's all that cognizing emptiness. An emptiness suffused with intelligence, a cognizing or a knowing. And when we say that, what is intelligence? Intelligence is just another name for knowing. anyone who is not knowing right now. And it's not intellect we point to. It's the same intelligence that's happening, shaping, forming in this universe. Look out there in nature and see how it's functioning. So the galaxies are forming out there, planets moving around, Earth moving around the sun, seasons coming and going, tides coming in and out. Doesn't that imply that nature itself is suffused with that innate intelligence? It's not like as we use our intellect, it's not functioning like that, that 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4, or working things out with the mind. When you look at the so-called mind, there is no such thing as mind. If you think there is, describe that mind to me now. Show me what it is. What do you think mind is? And you realise there's nothing solid or substantial there apart from thoughts. And what are thoughts? Thoughts are words, or sounds, ideas, or images. And what's a sound or a word? A sound's a vibration. And a vibration is a movement of energy. So that intelligence energy, the activity of knowing. And we put all sorts of different labels and concepts on that. Spirit, essence, something else. Taking it to be something separate and apart. It's all that intelligence energy. The activity of knowing. Now we've taken ourselves to be separate entities, individuals, persons. And these separate entities, individuals and persons, if we start on the so-called spiritual search, what are we looking for? Because we've taken ourselves to be the person, the separate entity, and we're seeking to become whole or complete, or enlightened, or realised, or liberated, or whatever other labels they put on it. But it's all the absolute, it's all the one. What needs to be realised? What needs to be known? When everything is already that. And that's the label they put on it. I am that. And then we put another label or a word on that. That's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the house, that's me, that's you. We've divided it up into concepts or words. And look into the words. Is any word the actual? Take word water. Can you drink the word? Take the word fire. Does it burn your mouth? Maybe this word I or me is not what you are. It's not the persona, the mask, the conceptual image. And if it's all the one essence, it can't be anything other than that. That is the word. That is the earth. That is the sun. That is the tide. That's you. That's me. Everything is that. Which we put labels on and differentiated, or seemingly so. And with that differentiation, we take ourselves to be separate entities, individuals, persons. And we seemingly go on a path, the path to liberation, the path to realisation. I can't see any steps out there. Where's the path in and what's it on? Is it going up a hill, down the hill or in the mountain, or you're walking up into space. And that seemingly search or path takes place in time. Another thing needs to be looked at, see if there is any such thing as time. There's no separation, no time, no space, no beginning, no end. No you, no me. We must already and ever be that totality, that absolute. Down through the ages of people, so-called people, or pattern shapes and forms that have expressed this and pointed it out. And the great traditions and religions have formed around them. But then they start passing it on to people that don't really understand it and form these religions around some great saint, sages, saviour or seer, who was only the messenger, and they've worshipped the messenger and lost sight of the message. And the message has always been, you are that total. And when we take on that idea, we're in that search. Now, over the ages, you don't see a great many that have really understood it. Though they've formed religions around it and have millions of followers in the religion, and what are things that happen in these religions? It's like somebody barracking for a football team. My team's better than yours. My team's going to win the premiership. And we get into all sorts of arguments and fights and go to war over these religions. Not settling down and recognising that it is the one essence. And you already and always have been and always will be that. And in these statements, they call it a self-realisation, a self-liberation, a self-awareness, a self-knowing. And we call ourselves the personal self. I am this person. So how many selves do you think there would be if self means single and alone and oneness? There's always and only and ever been the one self, and it expresses as realisation, liberation, freedom, so shining, glowing, very. So one self, patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing everything. But we've labelled ourselves as this persona, this mask, and we think we're going to improve on that. Or become realised and everything will be right. But because we put all these concepts and labels on it, therefore concepts, labels are words, ideas, images, and the concepts and labels and images are that which seemingly obscuring it. What would it be necessary to get rid of? Would it be necessary to understand the concepts, the images and the labels? See them for what they are, instead of being bound in them, bound up in the concepts, ideas and images, which we've done. Put all sorts of labels on ourselves. Taking the word to be real, and not realising that's the belief in the word, trying to work it out in the mind and get rid of the word or do something with the word. That keeps us in the bondage. Not only keeps us in the bondage, but causes all our psychological suffering. Just the labels we put upon ourselves. It doesn't have to be that way. As we point out here, have a look into the word, have a look into the persona, have a look into this mask. Question your beliefs, question some of these concepts and ideas you've taken on. Watch the capacity of reasoning. See how it works. See how it's always vibrating in interrelated opposites. See how your mind functions if you think you've got this thing called mind, what we call mind or concepts. And notice it always functions in the pairs of opposites. It's either past or future, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negativity, good or bad. Always in the interrelated opposites. And see how many words or labels and images we put upon ourselves. We learnt words and parents told us, gave us a name, and they tell you again, some of these people have understood it, just say it's, in Hinduism it's Satchitananda, Nama, Rupa. They're the 5 factors. And when you put the labels on those words, what's Sat? It's existence. We break it into English, it's existence. Anyone who is not existing right now, and you realise, no, I'm existing. Chit is consciousness. Anyone who is unaware or unconscious right now, no, you'll say, I'm conscious, I'm aware. And Ananda is loving to be, or happy to be, or they call it the bliss of being. Anyone who doesn't want to be right now, you don't want to give up that beingness, you can't. And the other 2 factors are Nama, Rupa, name and form. Now, any name you've got has been learnt or picked up along the way. Any form, the body, or the pattern, shape and form, the tree, the flower, the body, the insect, the bird, they're all forms which we put labels on. And they tell you that the name and form are Maya. They're illusion. They're not the actuality. They're not real. Understand that they are real in essence, but not in the way they pattern, shape and form. Everything is formed out of that essence, or life essence we call it, or call it spirit. A lot of people call it spirit. And what's spirit? Spirit is the essence, or the pattern, shape and form which it bears in. What's the opposite of spirit? Matter, or material. So all these pattern, shapes and forms we take to be matter. Material. As we pointed out, as they say, it's the one essence. The shape and form they appear in, which they tell you again in the scriptures, is Maya, it's illusion. The pattern, shape and form are just vibrating energy. There's nothing solid or substantial about it at all. So we need to investigate this and look at it all and see. And they tell you in some of the scriptures too, that spirit can never know matter. Because all that matter is spirit that's congealed or seemingly solidified, like the blood. When blood congeals, it seemingly sets and appears solid. Call it matter then, material. So what you are in essence, always and ever have been and always will be, is pure spirit. Spirit is the core of it all, it's the essence of it all. And matter is how it appears in a solidified form. So look along those lines and grasp along those lines and see for yourself whether you are that material body, or is there a core essence running through it, a spirit. Call it life if you like. If that life wasn't functioning through that body right now, if it hadn't pattern shaped and formed it and brought it into existence, how many thoughts could you have? What words could you have? Where would they abide? What would they look through? So you see, though the pattern, shape and form is there, it is the spirit or the life that's enabling it to function. It's breathing it, beating a heart, growing a hair in your fingernail, digesting your food, replacing cells in your body. Are you as the person doing any of that? Are you as the person doing any thinking? Are you doing any seeing, any feeling, tasting, touching, smelling or thinking? We've taken the belief that we have I see, I think, I feel. But if that life essence wasn't functioning through that pattern, enlivening it, how many thoughts can a corpse have? How many heartbeats can it have? How many breaths can it take? How much food can it digest? So like a computer's got all that information in it, hasn't got a scrap of information if the power's not on. It's not a bit of good. So that's the same. We need to investigate and look and see if you are this body, mind, person. Innately, you already know you're not, because you say my body. Say my coat, my car, my house. You know you're not the coat, the car or the house. They belong to this essence that you call me. But we think it's the person. It's my body. It's my mind. So the way the functioning goes on, we're related to this myself, the personal self. And we're told there is one self, patterning, shaping, informing, and expressing as everything. So you want to know the truth and understand the truth. It's I, self. I am the self. And anything that pattern, shapes and forms and appears in itself. I am the fear. I am the anger. I am the unhappiness. I am the joy. I am the love. I am all those things that vibrate into different pattern, shapes and forms. But we take them to be separate. In the very separation of themselves, we like one thing and don't like the other. Try and get rid of it. Not realising, if you notice your life, how it's functioning, you'll see it's constantly changing. How long does the bad thing stay there? Seemingly don't stay for a long time, especially if you're reinforcing them with the energy of belief. And believing it's so, all this is happening to me. But have a look again in nature. How long do clouds stay obscuring the sun? Not very long at all. They're constantly changing and moving on. Have a look in this thing you call mind. How many thoughts you're having? You can reinforce some by keeping them there longer than what should be. But go back, where are yesterday's thoughts now? How many of them are there right now? They can't be there unless you recall them. Bring them right now. So you realise, whether you like it or not, they're changing. But while we're reinforcing them, keep them there longer, and we suffer accordingly. It's these sensations that come up from these thoughts. Fear is a sensation, which we put, instead of seeing it fresh and new, as though seeing it for the first time, we label it fear. The next one, this other one, we could call anger. I've had that before. We label that, instead of seeing it fresh and new, as a fresh sensation. This one is unhappiness, this one is joy, this one is sadness. All sensation. The vibration senses vibrate, and we put a label on according to what we believe it is, because we've had it before. Putting the whole label on instead of seeing it fresh and new. Keep seeing them in the immediate presence when they come up, without putting any label. Have a curious look, see what it actually is. You might see it totally differently, and you will, because it's always transient. But while ever we're relating it to the old label, if we like it and it's going to move, we don't want it to move away, there will be resistance. And if we don't like it, we don't want to keep it there, we will resist it again. Don't you see this constant resistance is going on with it? Causes all the suffering, the fear, the anger, not wanting things or trying to get rid of things or trying to hang on to things. There's a constant conflict going on. And that resistance, conflict and dis-ease, all that resistance and the conflict that comes with it, the anxiousness, the fear, the anger, the unhappiness, is uneasiness. Uneasiness is dis-ease. Have a look at that and see if that is how your life is functioning. When you really understand and see the way it's functioning, there may be ways to see through it and change it. While ever we're constantly believing in it, and which we have done, trying to work it out in the mind, think that thought's going to solve the problem. Now, thought can be very useful. There are many inventions that have formed and many things it has solved. But it won't solve this one. It won't, it can't. That's when you understand what this thing called mind is. There's really no thing. There's nothing there with any substance or any independent nature. And you realise from that there's no creator. It's all vibrating of itself. No creation. The creation is just a vibrating manifestation. And no creature. No. We're all creatures, forming in it. And you might understand how simple and easy it is to grasp this. Doesn't mean to say you won't the mind won't be utilised, but it'll come up naturally and spontaneously. There won't be a you or a me that's utilising it. There never was, never will be, and never could be. While we're related to that me, you've moved away from the natural functioning and put it into given it this mask or this conceptual image we believe that needs to become whole, complete, total. That's what we ask you to look at and see for yourself. Got any questions or arguments, or tell us how you see it yourself? Get into it. Away you go.
I've got a question. So Bob, it comes and goes, understanding, knowing, comes and goes. What are some helpful statements that we could use to bring us back to that knowing when we've moved away?
Well, ask yourself this one. What's wrong with right now if I don't think about it?
Yeah.
Now,
You know that one?
you know that one? Well, what happens when you don't think about it?
Oh, I just stop thinking and, you know.
Yeah, but what happens?
Another step forward and,
What happens when you're not thinking about anything? Can you say it's good, bad?
no, it's just what it is.
So it's brought you back to the immediacy.
Yes.
And then presence awareness. Are you unaware right now?
No, I'm aware.
When?
Now.
That's present.
Yes.
So you are that presence awareness right now.
Yeah.
Not the
It's as simple as that.
yes. Simple as that. That's simple that we miss it.
Thank you.
Maybe I add to it just a little bit, because there is another thing that Bob sometimes stresses out as really helpful, is to just, instead of focusing the whole attention in the mind, just come back from the mind into the sensory experiences which are always now. Like listening to the sounds, they are always happening presently, or seeing something, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. When the attention is kind of distributed more evenly between the senses. And because the mind is always overlooking the reality, is always thinking either about future or past, or having stories to say, and it kind of misses out what is happening presently. So for me, very helpful always was to just focus on few sounds, different sounds, like 4 or 5 different sounds, and hold them in the attention. And then there was no more attention available for going to the head. And that is grounding, and that is really pleasurable. Same with the sensations on the body, same with different tastes. I mean, people instinctively do it with the taste, but that's kind of dangerous. Like when people feel some sort of a void or want to break the emotional pattern of beating themselves, they go for food and they get addicted. Because that moment of eating a chocolate, it does break the pattern of thinking, and it is instant reward. So I wouldn't recommend that method. But generally coming back to the senses, to hearing sounds, seeing sights, smelling, even smelling the air, breathing, feeling the body, feeling the muscles, feeling the tensions and face, that really brings the attention back to the present moment, because what we experience sensorily is always present. We can't really...
I think it's the breath. I have a very strong mind, which is always locking on, and I had to practice yoga for many years, and it's always, when my mind is getting really strong, then I have to watch the breath and feel the breath, and it sounds like the ocean, and that relaxes me, and it relaxes my mind. And the in-breath is like the tide coming in, and the exhale is the tide going out, and it sounds like the ocean, and that's very relaxing when my mind is locking on. Yeah, so coming to the senses. I
That's
suppose.
what I say.
Yeah.
Let your thoughts ride out on the breath.
The thoughts ride out
On the breath.
on
Yeah.
the breath.
Breathe out. When you breathe out the thought. What's there then? Just do it right now.
Wow, I like the lion breath.
Yeah.
I'm breathing out the city, the exhaust from the city.
Yeah, it is a helpful idea to just breathe out whatever troubles you.
Oh, it works. It works because, as Bob said, you know, it's spirit is the essence, and the prana, the breath, is spirit essence. It's the most refined essence there is, and it animates the body and possibly the mind. Prana animates the mind. Is it prana that animates the mind? But our mind is God. It's creation. It's first there was the Word, and the Word was God.
Yeah.
And the Word is good. The Word is creation. And so the breath helps dissolve. If there's too much creation, if there's too much manifesting, then the breath can...
To say all things are made by the word. That's for creation. Nothing was made without the word. The beginning was the word was with God. That's all that God is a word.
Yes.
A label.
God is spirit. God is spirit.
Yeah, it's not a word.
There is
Because every religion's got a different name for God anyway. So which one we're going to rule on?
Can I just say something on the God thing, Bob? There's a misconception or misunderstanding around God made us in the image of himself. And we immediately interpret that as God must look like us.
Yeah.
That's how we interpret it. Yeah? But if you actually look at that line, God made us in the image of himself. Does God have an image?
Not some old big daddy sitting in the sky.
I thought that was there.
So there's a, that's a pointer. God made us in the image of himself. He has no image, therefore we have no image.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing is just on, it's just bouncing around in my head, the notion of free will and the notion of self-will. And we're also led to believe that we have free will. I don't know about you guys, but my will has never felt free. Ever has it ever felt free? Yeah? And that's because I've always been operating on self-will. Yeah? Free will is the absence of me. Total, absolute and complete absence of the so-called personal entity. Then, if you like, if we're going to be using the word God, that's God's will. God's will is free will. Yeah? My will is self-will. And it never works. It never works because there is only God's will. And the reason that we get into trouble as human beings is because we believe we have free will, which is actually self-will, but we believe that we have free will, and when things aren't going the way that we believe they should be going, we exert ourselves, or we try harder to make things go the way we want them to go. Because after all, I've been told I have free will. But when you actually look at it, we have zero, zip, nada free will as the personal entity. We can't make anything happen. Can't do anything, Can't make anything happen. Yeah? And we attribute that personal self to be able to do, create, see, be aware, know. It knows nothing. It is nothing. So it knows nothing, and it can literally do nothing. And it can't see anything. I'm talking about the personal me. It can't see, it can't hear, it can't taste, touch, smell at all. Why? Because there's not one there. There's literally not one there. There's a believed in persona here. There's a believed in me here. And when you actually go looking for that, like really go looking for that, you discover there's actually not. And all that's been going on our whole life is we have a belief in a me. There's a belief in a me that is present. When you are asking the question, Wendy, you know, like, what do we do? Like, what are some of the little pointers that we can use or recall when we fall in and out, if you like, of being aware one moment and not the next, you know? And yet there's certain little things that can get thrown at you. But the real question is, who is it that still believes it's falling in and out? And that has to be investigated. Until that is investigated, there's an assumption that there's a me here that still has to practice certain things or recall certain pointers to fall back into presence. The real, see, we assume or believe, or we assume there's a me here, and we assume that the me has to practice or do or see or attain or learn or whatever. And non-duality is about cutting right through all of that nonsense, because it is, yeah, cutting through all of that nonsense and coming right back to who wants to know. Seriously. And if that's not investigated, there's always going to be an assumption that there's me here that's not awake yet, that has to do certain things or certain practices or bhajans, whatever, you know, for me to finally awaken. There isn't one. So it's not possible for the me to get this, and it's not possible for the me to awaken. There isn't one.
We are an energetic being, though. We are.
Yeah, but there's no.
We do exist as energy.
Yes, but
there
it's.
can be blockages.
Yes, but it's not an individual.
It's not an individual, but.
Then that's it.
Well, I identify myself to be energy.
Okay, then identify yourself to be energy. That's an individual identifying itself to be energy, is it not?
It's simply a statement of description of
Understand.
how I manifest on the physical plane of reality.
I identify myself as being energy. I don't identify myself as being anything. Zip. Absolutely void. Nada. Nothing. Zero.
Well, that's a very difficult place to be. I feel sorry for you.
No. That's where we all are. That's where everybody actually, that's where we all actually are. But there's a belief that I'm an isolated individual me sitting here that's either experiencing energy or not experiencing energy, or getting this or not getting it, and so on and so forth. There is not a single individual sitting in this room.
But that can only be seen in stillness. It can't be seen through a description of the mind, which is what's happening here. It can only be experienced in stillness, in sitting and looking. And it's actually an experience. So it's very difficult to point to.
No.
Is it an actuality? Can anyone negate your being right now?
I hope not.
So your being, not wasing or will being or becoming, just pure being. We put the label human on it, and put the label on God on it, take away the label God and human, separate the beingness. There is Anything in this manifestation is just pure being.
That's the best word, I think. The best word. It's so neutral, and
Oh,
mind can't latch on to being, really, can it?
no, pardon?
Mind can't latch
No,
on to
it can't
being.
latch it, but you can't negate it.
Yeah, can't negate.
Can't say I'm not.
Can't negate the beings.
Isn't that what I said?
In a different
Just
way.
in a different way.
Yeah, that's right.
So the trick is to look. You have to look. If you don't look, literally look and see what's really actually going on here. And you have to look at yourself. You have to look here, not out at a teacher, not in a book, not online. You literally need to turn and look. Find the subject. Is there a subject here? Go looking for it. There's an assumed subject. There's an assumed me here. Go looking for that. See if there's actually anything there. What is it that's aware of your personal me? Can it be the me that's aware of the me? So what is it that's aware of that? And we ignore that completely. Completely. And the reason we ignore that is because all of our attention is always objective. It's always put out there. Always. Even being aware of thoughts that manifest, or supposedly being aware of the me that's here. Yeah? To be aware of any of that stuff. Thoughts, tasks sitting over there, feelings in the body, my so-called, contracted me. To be aware of any of that, you've got to be separate from it. You cannot be aware of anything unless awareness is separate from it. To be aware of it. So anything, literally anything that you can be aware of is not you. And we give no, and I mean zero attention to that is aware. And I'll tell you why we give zero attention to that is aware. Because we assume it's me that's aware. And we look no further. We assume that, take that as a belief, and then run with that, and then run around trying to wake up. Trying to get this, trying to wake up. That awareness is not the me. This that's here, there is no me that's here seeing, yet there's seeing. There's no me here that's hearing, yet there's hearing. Tasting, touching, smelling. Doesn't belong to the me at all. In that pointer that I sometimes use, if we were able to create amnesia in everybody, and everyone's me disappears. Amnesia, yeah? Right down to not recognising your face when you look in the mirror. Complete amnesia, okay? Still be there, there's still be an aliveness there, there'd still be seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Who would be seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling if amnesia was there? Who? Does there have to be a who for the seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling to be?
Who is there? If who is the unknown, then who is that?
That has to be found out.
Yes.
That literally has to be
It's an experience.
found out. No, it's not an experience. Experiences come and go. It's not an experience. So you have to look. You literally have to look instead of running around doing all these practices. What will I do? How can I stay in the present? How can who stay in the present? You're never not in the present.
It's all just words.
Yeah. There's just a me that believes it's not present. And the me's just a pattern of thoughts, and then another pattern of thoughts comes up and says, I'm not present. And this pattern of thought goes, no, it's not very... All that's ever going on, the only conflict that's ever going on is in the head. It's only thoughts that are in conflict with one another. There is no personal entity here. There's no personalised me here. that it's happening to. Just thoughts. And that's what I mean by turn and look and actually, truly see what's going on. All you are is a thought, a pattern of thought. That's it. Because where do you go if we create amnesia? You disappear. Yet, the body's still sitting here. They're still seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. So what is that personal me other than a memory, other than just thoughts? And then, it latches on to this awareness and says, it's me that's aware. It's me that's seeing. It's me that's hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Which is ridiculous when you actually look for yourself. Get out of the head. Get out of the head and look. Doesn't take intellect to look. Doesn't. I'm not using intellect to look at Dale. I don't need intellect to look there. It's just looking. It's really, really simple. Just look what's actually really going on. And don't question your assumption. Question your beliefs. You believe you're here. You believe you're solid. You believe you're a person, an entity here. You believe it. Otherwise you wouldn't be turning up here. Yeah? See if that's true. Or am I just running on a belief and an assumption? That's why we asked here to look, see if there is actually a me. Where is it and what is it? Where and what? And if you look hard enough, you'll see all the me is just a pattern of thoughts. Nothing else. And it latches on to presence and then claims ownership of the presence, which is what makes the me feel so solid. Because that it's latching onto is real. That presence, that awareness, that aliveness is real. And that's what makes it feel, ugh.
So Terry, let's forget about amnesia in here, because nobody's got amnesia. Let's go to an old people's home where there is a person who's actually got amnesia. So what's happening in that case?
Just they're forgetting.
So she doesn't know, let's say it's a woman, but she doesn't know who she is.
I don't know. I don't know the level of the look, that amnesia is a pointer.
Yeah, I understand. I know.
All right,
But in
so
reality, if
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
How would I know?
Yeah.
I'm not in that person. I don't know. I don't know what's happening for that person. But it's purely a pointer. If and you have to imagine it, like if you were able to go into a state, if you like, of just complete and absolute amnesia, where does your me go? Who am I then?
So that person would have no identity, basically, would it?
But they'd still be being.
But there'd still be
Being
being.
should be there. I realise she's still alive. She's still breathing and seeing as
They'd
you said.
still be being.
I
They just
understand
wouldn't
that.
have a memory of
But
themselves.
that's what I'm asking. She
Yeah.
would not have a memory
They'd still
of
be
who
being.
she is
They'd
or her
be-
identity.
Yeah.
They've still got a nervous system, like this is a perception about the mind.
Oh, guys, you're getting into your heads again. Stop it. Just look. Stop it. Seriously. Just look. Look.
I'll do that every.
Yeah, Bob wants to say something.
It all comes about from the word.
Oh, no.
There's God.
Okay.
Yeah.
God's got the final answer.
Answer the call.
Quick, who's answering? Nobody.
If you've got no words, how are you going to translate or label anything?
Yeah.
They call that anyone who is unaware right now. That's a word, but you can't negate the label what's there. You like to call it awareness or being or whatever you like to call it, but you can't negate that. Satchitananda, again, being, knowing, loving to be. Put the words on that discriminate it, label it.
And also what you said first, the first answer Bob gave to Wendy, without amnesia, when you ask yourself a question, what's wrong with right now, if I don't think about it, for that moment there is no thinking. And without a thinking, there is no identity. We have to think our identity to existence. I have to think I'm a woman, I'm Polish, whatever, to actually identify. Without thinking, It's like, and everyone has the sample when they wake up in the morning from the dream. Like sometimes you may be one leg in the dream already still, and one leg wake up, or there is just pure sounds are coming into existence. The sides are not yet, the eyes are closed. But then, maybe you stretch your body, this comes into existence. Basically, the reality as we know it get downloaded without even a day of a week. Okay, what day is it today? Is it Monday or is it Tuesday? Am I going to work or not? This stuff comes into the attention slowly. So before that comes into attention, who am I? Who am I without thinking of my identity, or who am I without remembering what day of the week is there? So this one is a free sample, is something that everyone can relate to. Yeah. Without creating conceptual identity, we know this is natural state, and it is so natural that everyone knows that, because everyone was born before they learned words and started identified. They were existing from that point. And everyone also knows that when they stop conceptualizing and relating and translating everything as relevant to me. So it is a natural state. But there is one more thing I wanted to add, because we use the pointer saying that there is a life essence or breath animating a body. That suggests that there's two things, the dead body and a life essence. There is no two, it's only one. It's just that one vibrates into a shape of a solid matter and vibrates into a subtler shape of a less solid breath, and vibrates or doesn't vibrate into a shape of a space in which it is. So it isn't that there is a life essence animating something that is dead and that it becomes alive, or it isn't that there is a breath or there is anything. It's just one manifesting in many, many different ways, and we can't even say it's one because it's a vibration. It's a potentiality, it's not a thing. So this one is a useful pointer, like Bob often uses the idea that, there is a concept and the energy flows into it, the belief flows into a concept, and these concepts become believed into existence, becomes reality. It's not that there is a concept and belief as two separate things, of course, but it's a pointer, it's useful. It may make it clear how that concept becomes alive by the act of feeding it with attention. And again, it's not two things, but that's illustration. All those illustrations are helpful, and all those illustrations are to be put aside when they are not needed anymore.
Clarify something that I think, maybe I misunderstand, maybe not. So it doesn't matter if we have a very strong mind patterns and very busy mind. Be knowingly presence of awareness is irrelevant to mind activity. It doesn't matter. I mean, we don't need to meditate to first decrease the severity of mind activity, then start be knowingly ourselves. We can start from the beginning without doing any preparation.
You got it right. Yes,
Yeah, that's
you
right.
got it
That's
right.
right. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, well done.
Is it a true understanding? I mean, we can just do it right now. We can
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Only right now.
And
There
it
is
works.
no any other time.
That's
and it
it.
works.
Yeah.
I mean, the influence, the impact on, because when, Terry sometimes said, give your attention to that. Terry said it like that to make sense for mind. Because attention itself cannot attention on itself. How can it?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I completely understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's easy to do. I mean, it's much easier.
It's happening all the time. It is just to be recognized. See, the way, and I love it, this is the way Terry is speaking to the identified mind, because that needs to be addressed. So because he does it, I don't do it, because I don't want to repeat what he just said. That makes no sense. So I come from the completely opposite perspective, from the space perspective. If you are already completely disidentified, free-flowing space of consciousness, what you are aware of through that consciousness is just passing phenomena. So it is available right now. only right now. This is only one moment in time that is available right now in the presence. So whether you are aware of the mind being very, very busy or the mind being very, very quiet, what does it matter?
And just a little small thing that now has nothing to do with the time. Now
Absolutely.
is not the part of the time.
Yeah.
That's correct.
We're not, coming from past and we direct towards the future. And now, moment by moment by moment by moment, it's not like that.
That's
It's
you're
not
right.
like
It just
that.
is. That's
It
it.
just is.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, yes,
You
you
got
got
it,
it
Dave.
right. Yeah,
Theoretically.
yeah,
10 out of 10.
yeah, beautiful.
I'll give him 11.
Yeah.
The time is mind made.
It's a concept.
It's purely a concept.
Mm.
Because all we ever are is absolutely present.
That's it.
Where's time in that?
When mind identifies itself with awareness.
Yeah.
Upside down, awareness
When the concept of time comes into play, which is something that we've learned. But the problem is we take it to be real. Just like we take the me to be real. We assume time is real. We assume time is an actual thing or an event.
And a feeling of boredom is a response to that feeling. I mean, when we feel boredom, we sit down.
Yeah, that's just time. That's just time being discontent with present, which is just mind being discontent with present.
Yeah,
Because mind's
it's only a
there.
concept.
In the absence of mind, there's absolutely no discontentment of presence.
If we continue, I mean, from the beginning of feeling of boredom, continue this giving all attention to these feelings and confront the feelings 100%, isn't it that after a certain time the feeling dissolves?
Yeah, that's one way to do it. Or you could just come back to who's feeling it.
Who's it
Sorry,
happening
that's
to?
the bottom line.
Whatever resonates.
Who's it happening to?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or come at who, like, all right, there's boredom here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll really dive into the boredom and I'll really focus on the boredom, and hopefully if I do that, boredom will just dissolve. Who's doing all that? Who's saying all that? Who's practicing? Who's going to do all that? Me.
No.
I think I need more explanation. Can you please?
Yeah, well, I think he was coming from the space perspective, from the opposite approach. Like, the approach that Terry offers, investigate the me, who is it happening to? But what you're saying, if there is a boredom and you look at the boredom, you can't find it. Because the boredom, nothing is actually having any independent nature. Boredom is an absence of attention. It is an inattention. So the moment you put attention on where you were thinking there was no sensation, nothing going on, or void, or whatever, you won't find it. You will just find a lot of life flowing, naturally flowing. So did you try to actually look at the boredom, what it is, how does it feel, where is it located, how does it taste, what substance does it have? Because I did, and I haven't found any. Because there isn't one. Boredom is a label, it's a concept. But the moment you try to pinpoint that very sensation and associate that very concept with particular experience, you will find there is a flow of a lot of different sensations going on. And when you see the body is experiencing sensations, there are emotional patterns, there are thought patterns, there's so much going on, how can you call it boredom? It's fullness, it's a richness of life. So this is when you don't want that boredom to go away. You don't actually focus on it hoping that it will disappear. No, you're just curious. You just totally open your field of consciousness, verifying or experiencing or appreciating whatever shows up. The wave that shows up on the ocean, you're curious about it. So you look at it with no intention to destroy it. Just with the intention to actually really appreciate it, really find out, really curious. And what you're going to find, you're going to find that full flow of life every moment.
And that's what Bob was saying in the beginning. I am, he was saying, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. I am the anger, I am the boredom, I am the... it's sort of tying into what Bob was saying in the beginning.
And this is also often overlooked because, again, and it's a very, very useful approach, the approach that Terry, you're suggesting, to actually investigate the mind, separate the subject from object, and then see everything as objective, and then look who is looking. That's one way. What Bob is saying is, again, the perspective, the space perspective, the opposite perspective. At the moment when, before the mind comes in and split the experience into two, there is just boredom. There's no one who feels bored. There is just anger. There is no one who feels angry. There is just sadness. There is just whatever the experience is just a pure functioning of the experience. And at this moment, there is no separation and there is no problem. I am the anger. I am the boredom. But there is no conceptual identification with the pattern. It's just how the consciousness is expressing itself. No split.
Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. But the second later, the mind comes and say, oh, I felt angry. I shouldn't have felt angry. Now the split comes. Now there is me feeling angry or me feeling bored. Oh, what am I going to do about it? Now there is already the duality entered the picture. And this is the way where you go and you do investigation, which Terry is offering. Go and investigate who is the I. Because a moment ago there was no I. There was just pure fury, let's say, or there was pure joy or pure ecstasy, just the plain functioning. But the moment later, the narrative self comes. Hey, this is happening to me. There is my boredom, my fury, or whatever. That's who is that my? Or just go back to the plain space and see, oh yeah, that is the wave, tsunami wave, a volcano arising with anger. Okay. Cool. It's no one. What you find out, whether you go the way that Terry offers, you're going to find nothing because there is nothing. There is no I. Or whether you just look from the space perspective that you are whatever you are seeing, you are the totality. Then again, there is no separate self. So either way, you end up in non-duality because that's your natural state. That's what you are.
Leave it, as somebody said earlier, leave it everything as it is. Just as it is.
Unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected.
No partiality.
No preference, no partiality, no comparison. Isness. Not wasness or will be.
And just running on what Kat was just saying, stop taking credit for the anger.
Yeah.
Stop taking credit. Stop taking credit for anything because it's not you doing it. It's not. Not to imply it was you.
It's a farce.
The problem is the me. It's the me, and we're going around trying to either fix it or enlighten it. But the problem is the me.
Oh, it's so silly.
It's like that's the actual. Sorry.
No wonder it can't be fixed because there's nothing.
Yeah, I know. Nothing to fix. Everything is just constantly, spontaneously happening, including the feeling of anger, joy, shame, whatever it is. Because there's no you there thinking that stuff. There's no you there that's responsible for those thoughts coming through, which might produce the anger or the shame or the whatever. It just arises. And then me steps in and goes, oh God, I wish I didn't get angry. What are they going to think of me? Yeah. So, but everything is just happening. It's always after the event that me steps in and pats itself on the back or hides its head in shame. You know, if we were responsible for these feelings or these thoughts and so on and so forth, we'd all be masochists. Every single one of us would be guilty of being a masochist. Because if you're responsible for it, why are you thinking the stuff you think? Why would you, and if we have free will, why wouldn't we just from this point forward be happy? Stop it. I love that, yeah. Just knock it off. Or think nothing but blissful thoughts from this point forward.
Stop it. Get the Shakti pot.
thing happens.
Yeah.
Get this one.
What happened to the peacock? Oh, there we go.
There you go. Stop it. Stop it.
So all the thoughts, all the meaning, all the stuff that comes up is just happening. And that needs to be viewed and seen as just happening instead of taking credit for it.
And the ing on anything means that happening really means seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. Right? Is that shit an and or another way of putting it? Being, knowing, and loving to be. Or awareness of the being is bliss. That's it. Your lovingness, if you like, is just being aware of being. And you don't have to put any words on those. Can you negate your beingness right now? To express it to somebody, you've got to say, I am, I'm being. Anyone who's not knowing that, to express it to somebody, I know. And nobody in this room that doesn't love to be. Okay.
There's a terrific film called, I don't know if anyone's seen it, I Love Huckabees.
Yes.
Have you seen that? Do you remember the scene where Dustin Hoffman is explaining to the guy who's, seeking, having an existential crisis, and Dustin Hoffman puts him in this bag and zips him up, so he's completely in darkness, he's completely in the void, and then unzips him so he comes out. And then he's trying to explain existence like through a blanket, like this is the Eiffel Tower, and this is a house, and this is you, and this is me. That, for me, that was the most perfect explanation that helped me get it. That everything is one, like it's just one. I did see it as a blanket, and even as an actor, when I was an actor, I saw the blanket of humanity. Like it was just. There are people there, but it's a blanket of humanity. And so in this film, I Love Huckabees, it was just the most perfect, for me, explanation of the manifesting, the manifesting out of the unmanifested.
Yeah, good idea. Ocean and waves is a similar concept.
Exactly, it was that. That's what I was saying. The ocean and everything coming out of that. It was. It's wonderful to see because it's impersonal. There's no personal in that. It's simply arising out of nothingness. Just
That's our way.
But even the ocean and the wave, I love that analogy because, as I mentioned before, it's quite close to our professions, Bob's and mine. But it also has limitation because for the waves to arise outside of the ocean, there have to be something outside of the ocean. So they have to be above the surface of ocean, there have to be a space or air so the waves could form. Whilst in the manifestation, it's kind of the expression happens within the ocean. So it is within the space, not outside of space. But it's a good illustration again. I like to actually point the limitation of all the illustrations before somebody else tear them apart and reject them as unhelpful. Because knowing the limitation, we can still use them as helpful pointers. Rather than just latching on to, no, that's nonsense because it doesn't work, the mirror or other analogies. They can be really helpful, or the finger in the moon.
I really like the ocean wave one because the ocean doesn't reject any wave. Any wave that appears is accepted. Yeah. And I read a statement by Remy yesterday who had about 2 lines, I can't say it, but the ocean allows every wave to reach the shore. So it's sort of in loving presence all that time. The wave. in a sense, you get sure it's going somewhere, so there's sort of duality there, I suppose, in that way. But there's a limitation again, like what you were saying, but it's still, I still find it beautiful.
It is, because the manifestation doesn't, they're all, every single form, including mosquito, other annoying creatures, they are the children of the absolute, they're equal to God. Even people we don't like.
And the wave has never been anything other than water.
Yeah, that's right. The same essence, just taking another form, in a sense. So I like that. To me, there's no limits for that one, but
that essence or presence is our natural state. That's who and what we actually are. Some people refer to that as God. Yeah. Some people refer to it as intelligence energy. It doesn't matter what, they're just labels. Yeah. But that presence, that aliveness, that in the absence of the personalized self is beyond description. Is absolutely beautiful. And you're really seeing, you're really hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, because it's not being filtered through me. I remember going for a walk with friends, and we were walking through a forest. This is when I was really caught up, We're walking through this forest. Somebody paused and said, "Look, what a beautiful tree."
it's after the fact.
My immediate response then was, I looked at the tree and went, "It's a tree." I didn't see it. I didn't see it. What I first saw was, it's a tree. What I first saw was the thought that came up in my mind, are you kidding me? It's a tree. That's what and because I saw that, the descript.
You didn't actually see
I didn't see the tree.
Brings me back to my favourite.
What I saw was the comment that came out of that person, and then the judgment I had around the comment that came out of that person. That's what I saw. It's just another tree. Get over yourself. That's what came up. So I didn't see the tree. And that's just an example of what goes on all the time throughout the course of the day. We're so consumed with self, and we're so consumed with the idea of me, we're missing everything.
And we're so consumed with, little stories about a million different little things, instead of just seeing what is right here, right now.
It's wonderful what is right here, right now. And 99% of the time throughout the course of the day, it is. The only time it becomes not wonderful is when we step into our head and go, I'm bored.
It's not wonderful.
It's not wonderful. I'm bored. I don't want it to be like this, I want it to be like that. But it's actually, whenever you, I was going to say bring yourself back to the present, what a ridiculous statement, but anyway. But whenever you find yourself absolutely here, right now, present, 99% of the time throughout the course of the day, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. It's all as well. All is totally okay. It's quite amazing. But we don't go here. Like, we assume we're present, but we're in our head. Going, I'm bored, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I feel stuck, or I feel lonely, I feel isolated, whatever. Just like the story that I told myself about the tree. You're not living life. Life isn't being lived and seen and experienced here and now. And here and now is where we're awake. This is where we're awake. And as soon as we go into our head, we're dreaming. We're not here. Completely not here. We're not seeing anything. Not actually hearing anything. Even when we're hearing somebody talk or communicate, what we're actually listening to while we're hearing someone talk is either our objection as to what they're saying, or our story. Immediately it starts conjuring up a story around what the person is saying. So we're not actually completely open and listening. All of a sudden we're listening to ourselves. Oh, I can't wait to throw this back at that person. That person's so full of shit, or whatever the story may be. Yeah, we're not. Bob calls it heart to heart. Just heart to heart. Right here, without a story, without a judgment, without anything, just. And whilst that storying is going on, which is all based on the belief in a me, because the storying is about me.
Selfing.
Always about me, meing, selfing. I like saying meing. Jane likes to say selfing.
That's a Paul Adamson one.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. It's just self-obsession. And you know what self-obsession is? One pattern of thoughts being obsessed with another pattern of thoughts.
It's bizarre.
That's the so-called obsession that's going on. Our primary addiction, which seems to be really difficult for people to drop, our primary addiction is addiction to thoughts. Then every other addiction manifests from that.
Can we go to thinking O?
Yeah.
Why don't we go to TO instead of AA? Or sorry, TA.
Thinking's anonymous.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
Sorry, TA.
Yeah.
I'm not talking transactional analysis. I'm talking
Thinking anonymous.
when that comes into being, we'll know we're really getting somewhere.
You could maybe go overthinking anonymous, because thinking is a useful instrument. You don't want to lose your capacity of thinking.
And you can't. And you don't.
Selfing anonymous.
You don't
Not
lose that.
thinking anonymous.
You don't lose that. That's
Selfing
How many
anonymous.
steps we need?
And how many steps, Terry?
Just one.
One.
Just one.
No, none.
None.
Sorry, you got it wrong.
No. There is just one. No, there is
Okay.
just one.
Okay, all right, you got me.
Only one.
And that's step back, not step forward.
That's correct. Yeah, you're
step,
spot on.
Step aside.
I can tell you a little story because it's Bob's birthday, but we're having a birthday every day because we kind of live here and we enjoy the being. And yesterday was a beautiful sunny day, so we went for a beautiful sunny walk through the anniversary trail to Mailing Road just for a decaf coffee or something, just to be outside. And this is really a great illustration of what you were, Terry, saying, because we just sat, we got the water, there was a green bottle and there was 2 glasses and the sun was shining through the green bottle, putting a shade on the glasses, and the pattern of light and shade was dancing over the table. And we were just taken by it. I had this beautiful necklace also from Julia that was making drops on everything else. And Bob was overlooking one part of the sky also, and I was overlooking the other part of the sky. So our attention was absolutely, completely, for an hour that we spent there, with the sparkles, with the entertainment of the light play on the table, and the skies on both sides. And we were laughing, and we were happy, and we were easy. And one could say it was boring, and would start constructing problems in the head. And that's what I would probably be doing 5 years ago. And I would not notice any of that beautiful nature there. But because, that's our Bob's birthday every day and my birthday every day, just living in the now. Moments like this, basic moments, contain such a profound beauty in them that would normally be missed out. So we spent an hour, we got our decaf coffee, we took the walk back, constantly being aware of the sky, but it was very windy, clouds were changing very fast. I took about 50 pictures of them. Can't help it, it's impermanence. I totally accept it. And I totally accept the pattern of cheating the impermanence and cutting a still of it. It's not me doing it, it's just a pattern. So the moments, the life from that standpoint of not being busy with the commentary, with sitting in the head and constructing problems and translating everything as relevant to me, but just being open to whatever life is, whatever the ocean is waving at this moment, to the sounds, to the sights, to the play of lights. It makes it so light. Like Jane, you often say, traveling light. Yeah.
Paul Adamson quote.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling lighter. Yeah. Another man that comes from a 12-step tradition that admires Bob, as I do. And I was in the Yarra Valley yesterday. It was absolutely stunning. It was just such a beautiful day. And just driving through those hills, it was just, and up at Hillsville Sanctuary, it was so beautiful. Yeah. Gorgeous day. Yeah.
So that's how it is for children, what you're describing.
Yes.
That's how it is for children and childlike, and perhaps why Jesus said something like, unless you become like children, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven.
That's exactly right.
Because the kingdom of heaven is really Ananda, this being bliss. That's what it is.
That's it. Become like little children.
And children are just completely spontaneous
That's right.
and adventurous.
That's right.
All their senses are wide open, they're curious, they just check all this out.
And the next minute, they'll be screaming, and then they'll be
there's
laughing.
repetition, so they don't get bored. There's no boredom.
They learn pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, then they become conditioned, don't they, by our society?
Yeah, as we all do.
I love watching my little grandson because, you know, he's exuberant with joy one minute, he'll be screaming the next, then he'll be laughing the next, then he'll be... There's no resistance.
Pure
no
spontaneous.
resistance.
Yeah. No selfing about,
No
oh, I
selfing.
wished I hadn't have screamed. They don't give, that doesn't even come up.
That's
you know?
right.
It's just, rah,
It's
and then,
pathetic, isn't it?
and then whatever. And they're quite free in that. Like there's an absolute freedom in that.
Total. I relate to them. I'm with them.
And the fact is that every moment when we kind of stop believing in a boredom, which is stop believing that it could be or should be different or other or better, every moment is unique and is precious and is only here for that one moment. It is never going to have the same form and shape. So why overlook it? Why not really completely embrace it and just embrace it in a way, not that I am embracing the moment. No, just dropping the I am this precious moment that will never be the same again. It's only here now. And it's never boring. I mean, even in instances where there is a discomfort for the body, let's say there is cold or there is a headache or whatever, that is still only here now. It is not going to last. Nothing lasts. So even that could be really embraced fully, not embraced again as a dualistic sort of, oh yeah, okay, I'll tolerate it. No, it's just having that curiosity about being this moment, just being whatever is the seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, not limiting ourselves into that I am here and the world is out there. No, I am this world. Like the seeing is extension of me as the attentional consciousness. I am whatever is within my gaze. This is the experience of being or hearing, the same. Or even thinking, when I can conceive of the galaxies and stuff like this, that's me too. But if I don't, it's just that immediacy. Say something, birthday boy. Are you happy on your happy birthday?
Yeah. So much so I can't be bothered talking.
You still go sailing?
We do river trips. We've done a couple of times every single river trip on the Yara that we could.
Yeah.
Time.
Had enough?
Go for lunch.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
It's really, but I've had enough.
Thank you for showing up for Bob's birthday.